Welcome to the Maximize Your Interview podcast. I am Beverly Kahn, Coordinator Career Services at Organizational Development and Learning Centre. This podcast has been developed for staff at the University of Toronto in helping to prepare for the interview. Many of the same strategies can also be used for job interviews external to the university, and this podcast is part of a series of Maximize Your Career podcasts. Our agenda for this podcast includes the following topics that will help you to prepare and feel ready and more confident for the interview. They are the following: how to effectively prepare for the interview, dealing with difficult and typical interview questions, key strategies to engage the interviewer, and finally, a list of do's and don'ts. The goal of an interview. It is important to realize that getting to an interview is a success. It means that your resume, your cover letter have conveyed on paper that you meet the stated qualifications and that you are a candidate of interest. The interview is your opportunity to market your skills, your expertise, and convey why you are a suitable candidate, how your skills match the job requirements, and most importantly, to develop a relationship with the interviewer, your future employer or supervisor and colleague. It is also a combination of verbal and nonverbal communication. Key strategies for success. In this podcast, we are going to focus on 4 key strategies to success to help you to effectively prepare for the interview and to handle difficult and typical interview questions. They are interview questions, preparing stories to tell, developing questions to ask, researching the position and the department. Interview questions. Interviewers will typically develop a number of questions that are often a combination of open-ended, behavioral, and scenario. When you've been invited in for an interview, one of the first things that you can request is an extended job description. This information will help you to formulate the areas that they will want to address in the interview. The following is a list of typical questions. The list of questions can also be found on the ODLC website. As we look at this list of questions, you will see a question like number 2 is a sample of a behavioral question. It is, tell me about a time when you encountered a challenging client and how you handled it. Or another behavioral question is question number 6. Tell me about a time when you had to handle multiple demands and how did you handle it. A behavioral question is designed to assess how you handled a situation in the past, as this will be indicative of how you would handle the situation in the future. So, in the case of question number 2, you will most likely be dealing with the public and/or faculty and/or with students. In the case of question number 6, the job posting most likely talked about the ability to multitask and meet deadlines. I'm now going to talk about the weakness question, which is a typical question that most people find difficult. And that is, why are you asking me about my weaknesses when I'm supposed to be focusing on my strengths in the interview? There are 2 conventional strategies. 1, choose a weakness that is something that you've addressed and made it into a strength. 2, choose a weaker strength as a way to indicate what your weaknesses are. Ultimately, your weakness needs to be true and true to you. Prepare stories. In preparing for an interview, and especially for the behavioral types of questions, you will want to spend time thinking of your various and relevant experiences and be prepared to talk about them. One way to achieve this is to think of stories in advance of the interview that describe these experiences. A good format or structure or model is one we call PAR, P-A-R. The acronym stands for the following. P is for problem. Describe the challenge, the task, the before. A is for action. Describe what you actually did to resolve the problem during the activity. R is for result. This entails specifying the outcome and what happened after. And finally, you will want a link or a summary statement that ties this previous experience to the position to which you are applying. Here is a sample of a PAR response. The question is a behavioral one. Tell me about a time when you managed a project. The answer? Recently, my supervisor determined that our department needed a greater presence on the web. I was given the task to oversee the project. I oversaw the work of an IT staff member, and my role was to manage the project. I oversaw the research phase to its online presence in a period of 3 months. I conducted extensive research, reviewed many websites to determine best practices. I worked with the graphic designer and the IT specialist, and the result was that we launched this new and exciting website on deadline, and ultimately the new presence increased the number of hits to the website, and then the number of applicants to this program. This project management experience would be directly relevant to the School of Continuing Studies' new program development. In this story that I have just described, you can hear the details on the problem, the action, and the result. And it is also important to realize that your answer won't necessarily sound exactly like it does on paper when you verbalize it in an actual interview. You will want to spend time recalling relevant and positive stories to help you to answer these types of questions. Questions to ask. Asking questions in the interview will demonstrate to the interviewer that you are genuinely interested in this position. You've taken the time to thoughtfully create a list of questions, and you can demonstrate confidence by asking really important questions. Finally, asking and generating questions will showcase your capabilities. It is best to generate at least 3 to 5 questions, and in that way you're prepared in the event that they answer some of your questions during the interview. As well, you can bring them with you to the interview prepared in advance. You will see a list of sample of questions that you can adapt to meet the needs of the position to which you are applying. Questions can be grouped in the following manner: questions about the job, about the department, about the work environment, such as, what challenges would need to be addressed in the first 6 months? What are the objectives to be accomplished in the next year? About the department, how does the department promote development of its staff? What do you enjoy most about working in this department? Questions about the work environment. What is your style as a manager? What is it like to work here? What would people say about the work culture? And finally, you will want to avoid any of the what we call what's in it for me types of questions, such as, by the way, do you have flexible work arrangements? When can I take my vacation? So again, preparing questions to ask and this sample list here will help you to prepare to succeed in an interview. Research. A key aspect of being prepared for any interview is spending quality time researching the position and the department. This involves visiting their website, reading more details. What is their mission? What are their values? Who are their clients? What do people say about what they do? How are they reviewed? And you may even be able to download any brochures or printed material that will help you to feel more confident to understand the terminology for that particular unit. Additionally, you can perhaps speak to someone to find out more about the work culture. What are the expectations? Always go the extra mile in your research. Taking the time to do the research helps you to feel more prepared for the interview, more confident, and you can use this information to create and customize your responses to answers to questions, as well generate meaningful questions to ask in the interview. Do's. Spend the time researching the position and the department. Request an extended job description. Review your resume and your cover letter. Think about responses to typical and challenging questions. Prepare and generate a list of stories to tell using the PAR approach. Get a good night's sleep and be well rested. Make lots of eye contacts and engage the interviewer and the interview panel. Be enthusiastic about the opportunity. Stay positive and breathe. Don't memorize your responses to answers or you will stumble during the interview. Avoid any generalizations. Provide rich and descriptive details. Don't get lost in too many details about the story that you lose track of the question. Next steps. All staff at U of T are welcome to visit the Organizational Development and Learning Center's website to access sample interview questions, tips on interview preparation, and to borrow books in our Learning Lab on interview strategies. As well, you can schedule an appointment to have a practice interview with one of our consultants. Wishing you good luck and success in your upcoming interview.